Hello, everybody. This is Wallace Peoples. You are live on Mondays with Wallace. We meet every Mondays, 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and we chat about everything cannabis. I'm Wallace Peoples. I'm a board-certified pharmacist, and we discuss cannabis from I used to use the word conservative perspective, but I think more now we call it a think tank because we try to look at and chat about all the things cannabis. We've chatted about some of our past programs have been cannabis and end of life, cannabis with cooking, cannabis with as growing, cannabis as an industry, and cannabis, all things cannabis. I'm fortunate today to have as my guest Mark Webb. Mark Webb is an entrepreneur that is fairly new to the industry. Mark looks at the various funding of the cannabis industry as it relates to minorities and as it relates to anybody. The primary, our show today will primarily look at cannabis and suicide or suicide ideation. As you all know, very recently we lost a person that I was really very fond of, Anthony Bourdain from CNN. Anthony Bourdain actually hung himself in the middle of a show, or not in the middle of the show, but in the middle of one of his while taping an episode. He had hung himself in his hotel room. Mark, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm good. How about you?
Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So, cannabis, I'm a big, I've really learned that cannabis of late has really institutionally it really has a place in our society, and I feel like it's a place that's gonna be here for a long period of time. There's pros and cons to it. There's a study that we had just looked at, you and I, and this study had mentioned that the places that has legalized cannabis, what's happened to the suicide rate?
It's gone down.
It's gone down, which is really remarkable. I think the cannabis, and what do you attribute that to, by the way? What do you think?
I think the cannabis, it affects everybody differently. Mm-hmm. And you have some people who, go ahead and partake in it, smoke it, and they feel like a sense of like a stress relief, anxiety relief. There are a bunch of benefits that come from it, but it affects everybody differently. So there's certain people that does happen to. There's certain people, like myself, who I get the opposite effect.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry I didn't ask you before the show, but so you've used cannabis and you have used cannabis. Is that something that you do regularly or?
No, I've experimented and, almost every time that I have, I've gotten somewhat of a little bit, negative effects from it.
You've gotten negative effects from it?
Mm-hmm. I've gotten positive, but there's been times when I've gotten negative effects from it.
Oh, is that right?
Right. Where I'll get I'll get anxiety.
Oh, yeah, anxiety from using the cannabis.
Right.
Some of our previous guests had mentioned that there's varying types of cannabis. There is the indica and there is the
sativa.
Is there one that's better, or are you able to differentiate? I still haven't been able to differentiate it. Is there a way to visually differentiate sativa from indica, or is it just A strain that you're not
I'm
really
not
sure.
like an expert on it, but
Okay.
I do know, like, as far as like indicas are going to be the type that you're going to want to smoke if or take in
Mm-hmm.
like at the end of your day, when you're trying to relax.
Mm-hmm.
It's less of a head high, and when you take sativa is more of, it'll give you like your energy, and you can do things throughout the day. It's going to be a little bit more of a head high.
Oh, is that right?
Right.
When you say head high, I've always had trouble.
More of a psychoactive effect. So, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Oh, please, no, I
more
appreciate
of like,
your interaction.
psychoactive.
I've always had trouble with the fact that I've actually played basketball, and playing basketball, we would play with guys that would typically smoke,
Right.
and we would just really work them over, and then they would go and say, "Let me go and smoke," and they would go and smoke, and they would come back. And they would just work us over.
Yeah.
I've never come to terms with that. And do you think they have an enhanced ability? Do you feel like, I mean, is that just?
I don't know. Like, everybody's different. All I know is that for myself, it does not work like that. It'll be the exact opposite.
Oh, is that right? Is that right? The only time I can remember smoking, and I'm not a smoker. I don't really participate in cannabis or smoking weed so much. Is that when we would smoke, I would get dizzy, and it's probably because I'm doing it incorrectly. I just over the past week, I had some Cuban cigars. Do you smoke cigars? Have you ever smoked cigars?
I have a couple times.
Yeah, I smoked a couple cigars. And I got a respiratory thing from the cigars, and Cuban cigars, which were given to me as a gift. They're really a delicacy. I mean, I get the impression that people that actually do cannabis can actually produce the cigars similar to cannabis, and while smoking a cigar is enjoyable, but I got a little bit of a headache from it.
Did you inhale it?
Can you not inhale it, or is?
From what I've been told, like my uncle, gave me my first cigar, he told me don't inhale it. So since then, I don't
inhale it.
No, I don't inhale it. And I mean, I still get like a little bit of like a, head change.
So if you can't inhale it, how do you blow it out of your nose? I know that sounds crazy, but you know how people.
Yeah, I mean, that's for different things though. Like cigar, I believe you're not supposed to inhale it.
Yeah, no, I don't know the proper way. There's even a way to, if you have a cigar, and I don't know if marijuana is the same way. There's a way to actually fire it, whereas you have the cigar and you can actually put the fire on it to make it cook or burn evenly. And I wonder, is marijuana kind of the same, where you fire it, you have to let it burn evenly? Because the guy that I was smoking cigars with over the weekend, he seemed to really know how to do it. He was able to click it, and it was really amazing how. And it was great.
Was he inhaling it?
I'm not quite sure if he was inhaling it, but he seemed to really enjoy it. And in fact, I enjoyed it also. So I would guess I inhaled it too. But how do you inhale? What's the difference between inhaling and?
So I think,
do you just put it in your mouth and?
Yeah, like you want to get the smoke in your mouth, but I think that no matter what, you're going to like naturally inhale a little bit of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that if you're taking in that really thick smoke,
it was really enjoyable though.
Yeah.
I had my friend was over at my house, and we were watching the NBA finals, which, oh my God, I was so disappointed about. Cleveland and LeBron James. Did you get a chance to watch the
we watched
NBA finals? Yeah. Where does LeBron go next year?
Hopefully not the Lakers.
Hopefully not the Lakers. I'm a big Clipper fan, as you know, and I was hoping that LeBron would come to the Clippers. One of the best sensations that I've had, and I'm a big basketball fan. One of the best sensations I can remember is when the Cavs, and I believe it was 2016, when they won the NBA championship. The high and the euphoria was just amazing. That is easily one of my top moments ever in sports, and that's up there with almost anything that I've ever can imagine. By the same token, when the Cavs lost, I took a certain depression, and I really mean it. I'm not exaggerating. I was actually depressed in so much, not so much that I would commit suicide,
Right.
but in as much that I didn't read the paper. And even now, I really haven't watched television in the past few days. But that type of depression, I guess I'm wondering, where does marijuana or cannabis, where does that sit? If I'm doing marijuana and let's say Anthony Bourdain, we've lost a lot of people, a lot of good people lately. Vern Troyer. Do you know who Vern Troyer is?
He was the actor from Austin Powers.
Austin Powers. Yeah, he was the short little actor from Austin Powers. And this year,
Mini-Me.
Mini-Me, exactly, exactly. Mini-Me. And I want to thank everyone that's with us. You're on Mondays with Wallace. I'm Wallace, and this is Los Angeles Flight 420 out of Los Angeles. Thanks for being with us on Los Angeles Flight 420 out of LA. So Vern Troyer, he actually committed suicide. And I don't want to say that it's marijuana contributed, because you don't know. There is a piece in one of the programs that had seemed to suggest that people who smoke, and I'll read I'll read it. It says people who smoke weed every day have more suicidal thoughts. A study found, and this is a study from April 2017. So I guess, do you feel that marijuana could contribute, and in what way would marijuana contribute to suicidal ideations?
Well, I mean, first, how do we even get that number, though?
Sure.
Like how do we take a census of people's thoughts?
Yeah. Oh, that's true.
So you'd have to have like a particular crowd.
You're absolutely right, and I think with the thing with suicide is you really never know. Usually I'm a pretty cheerful person, and I can't think I would never commit suicide. And a lot of people are really, Mark, they have issue with even hearing the phrase commit. Because if you commit suicide, you really are not committing to anything. So I think to use the phrase commit suicide in itself is wrong. I think because you're really not committing anything. I don't know what else we could call it. I mean, it's obviously a tragedy, and it's certainly, I don't know what else we could say about suicide. But I've always had trouble with committing to suicide or committing to anything at all. I understand you may have had an experience with suicide as a child. Is that something you mind chatting about?
Sure. Yeah. So when I was in first grade, my best
when you
friend.
were in the first grade, I'm going to guess you were maybe 6, 7 years old. Excellent. Thank you.
And my best friend at the time, we would walk home from school every day. And one of the days that we were walking home from school, we'd usually stop by his house, either hang out there or go to my house, whatever. And that day we decided to hang out at his. And we had walked into his mom hanging from the rafters in the garage.
Boy, that's really painful to even hear that. I mean, for me, it's very painful to hear. So his mom actually committed suicide?
Yeah, I mean, at that age, I didn't really fully understand everything that was going on, but yeah, I mean, the only thing I remember is that they had said, she had like a history of like drug abuse and stuff. That's something I found out a few years after that. But yeah.
Well, that's a 6 or 7 year old kid. I think about myself. Here I am a grown adult, and you are too. We're both lucky to be grown adults. I don't really remember a lot of what happened when I was 5 or 6. Do you have any other recollections of when you were 5 or 6 years old, 6 or 7 years old?
Yeah, I think I have a bit of
what do you remember about? I'll tell you what I remember when I was a child. I think I was 5 or 6. I actually was spinning around because it was really an entertaining thing to do, and you would get dizzy.
Mm-hmm.
And I actually fell on the ground, and I actually cut my brow here, and the wound still is there. That's about one of the few things I can remember when I was 5 or 6.
That's funny.
Yeah, I'm not sure how many memories you have, but obviously that's a memory. I also can remember getting bit by a dog.
I got bit by a dog.
You got bit by a dog?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty traumatic. That's a pretty traumatic thing to happen. I actually had a paper route, and on my paper route, toward the end of my route, I would typically, on my last paper that I would deliver, we would throw the papers inside, and there was a mangy German Shepherd mix. I think it was a German Shepherd Collie mix. Back in Toledo, Ohio, most of the dogs were strays, and we grab them. And this was a German Shepherd Collie mix, and I would go to the fence, and I would kick the fence, and this dog who was chained up, he would get so angry. I thought he would just lose his mind.
Mm-hmm.
And what he would do is he'd come after me, and he never could get past the chain, and I would just kick him, and I'd say, "You mangy old dog," and I'd go about my way. And one day he wasn't chained up, so I got bit, of course. Yeah. So finding your friends, is that something that you worry about when you say depression? When you feel depressed, like I have to wonder what depression is. To me, as I've never, I've treated people for depression. I have seen depression, and there's a lot of signs of depression. But with Anthony Bourdain, that was just so unpredictable. And there was also the young lady who also killed herself. She also hung herself. She was the lady who, can't think of her name. She had the line of purses. You know her name?
No.
There's a young lady who had the line of purses, and she also hung herself. Let's see. Some of the people that we've lost this year. And
what was this year?
Yeah, this year. There was, of course, Anthony Bourdain, Alan O'Neill. He died at 47. That was June 6th. Kate Spade.
Kate Spade.
Yeah, Kate Spade.
This was recently, right?
Recently, absolutely. She actually hung herself in New York. And the thing with Kate, I don't think anyone saw that coming. I don't think anyone saw Anthony Bourdain coming. But I have to wonder what do you think the signs are of? I mean, obviously you were just a kid, and you didn't really see any signs. But what do you think were some of the signs of suicide? What can you imagine? Mm-hmm. What would you look for? What would concern you?
I don't know if you can even, if there's signs that really, you can look for. But I mean, obviously, like, depression's going to play its part, and I've never had depression, so I don't really fully comprehend what it's like to have it, or what their thoughts are like, and what could drive a person to really want to,
I've had people say to me that, and this is something that resonates with me, and I don't think I've fought with depression. I certainly wouldn't commit suicide, but I've heard people say to me that they're in a dark place. So, what's a dark place? What's a dark place? To me, a dark place is the Cavs losing was just a dark place to me. Really, I mean, I can certainly, feel like a dark place.
Yeah.
What's a dark place to you? I'm just curious.
I don't know if I've been there,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, like, I don't think I've been there. I think that.
Well, that's good. I'll tell you. Obviously, I've known you for a few years, and you shouldn't be in any dark places. You have a fantastic life. I always
Thank you.
Look at my studio guests, and I say to a lot of my studio guests, very similar to my wife, that if there's a life after death, then I want to come back as you. Yeah, I really mean that. So I don't know what a dark place would be, but I do feel at times, I think we're all, Mark, I think we're all looking for a little bit of the same thing out of life. You're looking to eat.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking to.
We're social creatures.
We are. That's what makes us all human. And, I was fortunate to have, you in my life, by the way. And I hope you feel the same way.
Yeah, likewise.
Yeah, for sure. But what would taking all that away from you? What if, can you imagine being incarcerated? And, you look at some people that are incarcerated, whereas they're in jail, in a jail cell for 23 hours a day, and they have no choice. You have no choice. So how do you reconcile that? I don't know.
That's a dark place. I couldn't do it.
I don't know if I could do it, but what would your option be? I don't think I would commit suicide. But if you look at like me coming on this podcast, this is really busy, and I'm sure even before I came to this podcast, we're doing all these things. We're washing cars, and we're trying to fix things, and we have this interactive thing. So if someone took all that away from you, that to me would be a dark place for me.
Definitely. Likewise.
Now,
yeah.
I don't know if I would commit suicide.
Well,
but I don't know how I would reconcile that.
What I was thinking about when you brought up prison,
right?
Imagine if you were put into solitary,
right,
for weeks, months at a time,
Mm-hmm.
That to me is like a form of torture.
Oh, for sure.
Right. So
for sure.
I don't know about you, but if I knew I was walking into a situation, I was going to get tortured for, months, years, something like that.
Oh, it's really challenging.
And I had the option of.
It's really challenging. I don't know that.
So,
everyone has their limits, mm-hmm. and the human spirit is just amazing. But I don't know that. I don't know where would I be at if. And when you think of suicide, I lost an aunt recently, and
sorry to hear that.
Oh yeah, thank you. But I watched her decline, and there are a lot of things that, in retrospect, I didn't understand. But I think if she had have had the option of suicide, I think it would have been an option that very possibly could have been a good outcome for her. And I'll tell you why, because she had, Mark, she had actually been in a nursing facility, and I had always had a good relationship with my aunt, except she had declined steadily. And when I would visit her, I only could notice that she had a certain pain. She had lost the ability to communicate with us, and she had a certain pain on her face, and even communicating her, she had a certain, you could tell she was in discomfort. And after she had died, when we had an autopsy, what we had noticed is that she had a very she had a very benign growth in her brain. And so what was happening, she was getting incredible headaches. She couldn't communicate that to anyone other than just articulating to me that she was in pain. But she never even told me that she was in pain. She just struggled through, and she was largely bedridden. And
oh my gosh,
boy, to this day, it's painful for me to even think about it. And I felt like I failed her in a lot of ways just because I never really was able to help her. It was just really, and I'm sure had she have had the option of suicide, I think it would have been an option, or not just suicide. Was it right to end your life? Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
I think that's a law in California. I'm not sure, but I think in California you have the option to end your life if you're, in a terminal disposition. If your situation is relatively hopeless, and I'm sure had she have had the option, if I were to have the option, I would, and people do have the option. Usually, when you have a you can declare if you want life savings compressions and CPR. Do you know CPR, by the way?
I don't know it.
You really got to learn CPR. It's really quite simple, and it's just basically you doing chest compressions, and some people it really saves their life. It's 30 compressions on a person's chest, and it's usually to the song "Staying Alive." So you familiar with the song?
Is it really?
John. Yeah, it is. What's the song by, I think, John Travolta?
Yeah.
Staying Alive, Staying Alive,
Mm-hmm.
Staying Alive, Staying
that.
Alive. So you just do compressions, and it used to be every 30 compressions you would compress their nostrils and then give them 2 breaths. But now it's increased to, say, 100 compressions
Why?
per minute, because it's just thought if you could keep the heart actually circulating the blood to the brain, that was enough just to maintain life. So, and usually someone, has to be, when you would see them, they'd have to be unresponsive, and obviously they wouldn't be dead, although actually they would be dead, in fact. Some of the other people we've lost, Margaret Kidder. Do you know who Margaret Kidder is?
No.
Margaret Kidder, she died this year also. She was 69 years old. They're not really quite sure how Margaret Kidder died, but she had struggled with mental disease, and usually with marijuana, or at least in Colorado, with children, preteens, it was found that about 80% of preteens in Colorado that had some type of mental disease, it's found that they had a relationship with cannabis or smoking weed. You know what just resonated to me? I just realized weed. We were chatting earlier. In California, you can actually grow marijuana because it's legal. And I guess someone that I know, they were actually provided seeds. And that was the thing that now it's kind of the big thing when you buy cannabis. The cannabis that you buy nowadays typically doesn't have seeds. And the reason it doesn't have seeds, because it's the whole business. And why would people want you to grow your own seeds? But planting a seed, and I saw a seed planted, is this a weed? And the thing with weeds is weeds grow prolifically.
Right.
So looking at the seed that was planted, it's weed because it should grow nicely. Have you ever had a chance to see weed grow, or have you ever?
Yeah, we went to Colorado back in the beginning of February.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we went to go check out a few operations that were going on, like cultivation sites. We got to see pretty cool. It's called Black Dog LEDs. I think that's what the company's name. And they provide these LED sets that are supposed to help your plants grow larger than what anything else is going to.
Oh, is that right? Typically, how large does a marijuana plant grow?
I believe it depends on the strain.
Oh, is that
and
right?
then it depends on what type of lights you're using. If you're growing indoors, if you're growing outdoors, I'm not too sure about that because I'm just not too sure. But when it comes to indoors, it's going to have a lot to do with the nutrients, the lights.
The company that you were working with, it's my understanding that you all were looking at a process that eliminated some of the pesticides in marijuana.
Right.
Are you still looking at that? And this was sterilization through either some type of electrolysis?
Well, it's through, basically, this is how it works. So during the process of harvesting your grow,
right?
I'm not sure who it is, but it's like somebody with the government, California. They want to, and in Colorado, they need to make sure that what you're selling doesn't have an excess amount of bacteria on it. And in order to do that, you have to send in a batch. They test it, check it, and if there's too much bacteria on that, they'll come in and they'll get rid of your crop. So in order to save companies some money, they've come up with this product where when you're done with your grow and you harvest it, you trim it, you take your batches, throw it in this, how would you say it? It's almost like it's like the size of a refrigerator. So you put it on these baking sheets, throw it in there. And what it does
is... You said baking sheets?
Yeah.
Baking sheets, like a baking sheet?
Yeah, I mean, similar to them. And what it's going to do is going to go in this machine, and this machine is going to filter in ozone. And the ozone eliminates like almost all the bacteria.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
That
so,
right?
I mean, you know for a fact that you're going to put your stuff in here, you're going to clean it, send it in, and, you're good. You're not going to get your crops thrown away. And you're also not, sending stuff out that's dirty that you're going to smoke and, get dirty stuff in your lungs, bacteria.
Some of the issues with marijuana pricing, just marijuana pricing in the Los Angeles area, and you know that marijuana is legal in California now, but some of the availability on the product and some of the product pricing has been a shortage of marijuana, and there's been a shortage, from what I understand, largely because of contaminants in the marijuana batches.
Right.
So, have you all seen that this particular ozone process, has it actually worked to eliminate some of the, I would imagine, fungus and bacteria?
Fungus, yeah. There are companies that are already using it.
Oh, is that right? Is that right? Oh, that's phenomenal.
Right. Yeah.
That's does it affect the potency of the marijuana?
No, not at all.
Well, that's interesting. Do you mind? How often do you smoke marijuana? Do you smoke it periodically? Maybe once a month, or
like a couple times a year, maybe.
A couple times a year. So that's not very much.
Yeah,
that's good. Yeah, it's. I still haven't smoked. It's just not something that I really feel comfortable doing. A lot of it is because I don't like being altered, and having a conversation with you now. You don't seem altered at all.
No.
And it's difficult for me to even try smoking and having a conversation with you. I just don't think I could do it, and I'd be forgetful of a lot of things. Like I'm trying to remember everyone that this is Mondays with Wallace, and I'm Wallace, and you are on Los Angeles
Flight 420.
Flight 420 out of Los Angeles. I love that. We've got some T-shirts that we're going to have for people. So
Cool.
anyone that wants a T-shirt, please just call in. And although we haven't got calls today, do we have the number on, by the way, Ali? It's the 42. What is it? 424 227 9461. I wish you guys could see my my producer Lee. Lee's got just this great booming voice. I'm certainly trying to do a little better with my voice. Now Lee is making me look at myself, which is even worse. I think he's.
That's stop you from talking about me.
Oh, I see. Yeah, Lee is with the Power of Voices, and Lee. And Josefa Salinas, they were kind enough to have us on, and we're also live on Facebook. I also saw we were on. Is it SoundCloud, Lee? Is that what it is?
Yeah, on SoundCloud and Power Voices.
Power Voices, YouTube, Facebook, and I'm really thankful to be here. We have some of the other people that we've lost. Scott Hutchinson. He was found dead. He's only 36 years old. I'm not sure how. Unfortunately, Scott died. Pamela Gidley, she's another. Teresa Banks on Twin Peaks, she's another person we lost. Did you ever watch any of the Anthony Bourdain?
Yeah, I did. I thought they were really cool.
They were really good.
And he lived like an awesome life.
Oh my God! He actually went to a little restaurant. His big thing was K-Town. If anyone knows K-Town in LA, do you know what K-Town in LA is?
Yeah.
What is it?
Koreatown?
Koreatown, exactly. I love Koreatown. Have you ever eaten in Koreatown?
Yeah, my dad's Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, is that right? Right. I still haven't been to Buffalo Wild Wings. Although I've had stuff from Buffalo Wild Wings, but if you go to Koreatown, Buffalo Wild Wings, how's the business in Koreatown? I thought you would buy Korean food.
Well, I mean, it's good.
Is that right?
Yeah, I mean,
I was just trying to fit that. So, if you guys you're gonna open a restaurant, I guess if I were to open up a restaurant,
yeah,
in Koreatown, I would. Do you guys at least at the Buffalo Wild Wings, if you don't mind talking about it, do you at least have Korean food?
No. So the menu's like strict. It's
Oh, I see.
you can only serve certain
wing.
things. So, no, I mean Koreatown's cool.
Yeah.
It's not only like, are you saying like it should be like Korean food there?
I would think so.
You'd want to open up a Korean restaurant?
Well, I got to tell you, to be really honest with you, and I'm going to be embarrassed to say, what is Korean food? I don't know what Korean food is. So if you went to a Korean restaurant, what would you look for? For a lot of my...
have you had Korean barbecue?
So there you go, Korean barbecue.
I've had Korean barbecue. Have you
Korean
had it?
barbecue.
It's the bomb.
Okay, so what is Korean barbecue? Isn't it like
Well,
regular barbecue?
like I've been to a Korean barbecue place. Mm-hmm. You get like kimchi.
Kimchi. So what is kimchi?
I
I'm
believe
just
it's like
not
fermented
knowledgeable.
cabbage.
Oh, fermented cabbage.
Yeah, it's kind of spicy. It's pretty good.
Uh-huh.
They have that. And you get like, what is it called? They give you different types of meat. I think one's called like, what's the name of it? Do you like pork?
Sure. Yeah, I love pork.
Yeah,
Some
I
people
forgot
don't
what the name of it
eat
is.
pork, but I always thought and you probably know better than I because you're more into cooking. I always thought that Korean barbecue was thinly sliced.
Right.
Is it pork or is it beef or is it?
They got all kinds of stuff. They got like shrimp, seafood, beef, chicken.
Is it spicy?
Can be, but
It
I mean,
can
you
be?
make it yourself. You've got like a grill right in front of you, and they bring you like this raw meat,
You
vegetables.
said raw meat?
Yeah, raw meat, raw vegetables, all that stuff, and you cook it yourself. It's pretty neat.
Now you're in the cooking industry,
Right.
correct? Okay, so what is Japanese food? Is that
Well, I guess sushi fits Japanese food, right?
sushi? Yeah.
Um,
Do you have something that you think is like if I were to invite you over, and you were to bring something, what would you bring that you really do well, and you're a cook and you really do well? Some people, by the way, some of my guests that have come on, they've actually done cannabis cookies, and doing cannabis cookies or cannabis brownies, that's their thing. And when some of my guests have brought me gifts, I do want to acknowledge that we're here with Mark Webb, and Mark Webb did not bring me a gift. I just want to make that clear. I guess that wasn't, I guess I didn't clear that up. I guess I didn't really, but most of my guests, they do bear gifts, but
we'll have to figure out something.
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I always will. I'm always thankful to have anyone on, and actually, one of the gifts that we actually give our guests is we actually give Disney passes to our guests, and our guest last week got a Disney pass. So,
oh, no way.
We want to get, and people that actually, I was thinking of offering it to people that called in, but we didn't get, haven't gotten people call in as much. So we'll have to, cool. Absolutely. But so what would you bring? What would you bring?
Oh, I like to grill.
You like to grill?
So, throw some stuff up on the grill. I feel like I'm decent at that.
Yeah.
Chicken.
With chicken wings?
Yeah, I mean, like, I can make some mean chicken wings.
Is that right?
Yeah.
How do you make chicken wings that, because, I've actually had the chicken wings at the Wild Wings places, and they're really good. How does one make a chicken wing it's so good, but I can't? I just don't have the ability. Is it a long process to make chicken wings? No, I know we're talking about cannabis, and we're talking about suicide ideation with cannabis. Of course, we've morphed into chicken wings. I don't know how we got there, but you certainly can't commit suicide with chicken wings. And one thing that we've given is the suicide national prevention number, 800-273-8255. Anthony Bourdain, if you just think about his transition, like look at this transition that we've made here. He actually went from talking about chicken wings like we're doing to an hour later committing suicide.
So it was an hour after his show?
I don't think it was an hour after the show, but it was during the phase that he was taping. They were actually, from what I understand, they were actually in Paris, and Mr. Bourdain was supposed to do a dinner, then a breakfast, and then tape the show, and he declined on the dinner, and he missed breakfast. And when they went to check on him, they had found that he had hung himself. So, it was a short transition. It wasn't during the same period. Although who knows? He was found by I believe his housekeeper, I believe, but I'm not completely sure. So I don't want to give anyone the bad. I'm sorry. It was a friend that had found him. So, but again, that was such a short transition, and I mean, looking at his shows, I cannot imagine that there were any signs. Mr. Bourdain, he had a history of, I think, heroin abuse, and he had a history of, I believe, I know he had done marijuana, and I won't, I think it'd be really unfair, although the platform of our show is marijuana, I think it'd be unfair for us to say that marijuana caused it, because that certainly is not the case, and we don't want to go there, but some of the literature does suggest that marijuana, people that do marijuana daily, has been associated with suicidal ideation. Many times, if you put someone in the hospital against their will, do you know what that's called? By the way, there's a certain number associated to it.
No, I don't.
It's called a 5150.
Oh,
have you ever heard that?
Yeah,
5150.
okay, yeah.
So what does 5150 mean?
You're crazy.
No, it doesn't mean crazy.
What's it mean?
Yeah, it doesn't mean crazy, but it means that you are a risk either to yourself
or somebody else,
or someone else. And obviously, there was some period, whereas Mr. Bourdain as well as a number of our celebrities, there I'm sure they were at that particular stage in their life where you would have you would have done well to hospitalize them till they can get past this dark point or this dark phase in their life. But it went through that same transition. So back to your wings. How would you do wings that I would? Oh my God! So how do you cook wings?
Well, I like to bake them.
You bake them?
Yeah. At Buffalo, they fry them.
They fry them.
Mhm.
And,
I like
is
'em
that so? When I would go to buy wings at, and you know, my favorite place, I like Buffalo. I also like the Wingstop. If anyone goes to a Wingstop, my God, those are amazing wings, and especially the hot ones, the real spicy
Louisiana
ones.
ones?
Not the Louisiana ones as much.
Like the hottest ones.
The hottest ones. They're called the Atomic ones, I believe.
I think so, yeah. Something like that.
And we're not supporting or anyone, but does Buffalo Wild Wings, do they have a very hot wing? Do you know?
Yeah, Blazing.
I think your family owns a restaurant, I believe.
Yeah, a couple.
And they're called Blazing. Is that what they're called?
Blazing wings, yeah, I got a sauce, a bottle at the house. So
Oh, is that right? Is that right?
I'll give you one.
Yeah. You know, they have this new scorpion sauce that I have at the house, the Tabasco. Have you had the Tabasco Scorpio sauce? Have you tried that?
No, I haven't tried it.
That is super hot.
Yeah?
It's super hot. And I don't know. I think it's almost the hottest pepper that you can have. One of the hottest peppers is habanero pepper.
Carolina Reaper.
Carolina Reaper. Is that the name of a?
That's a pepper right there.
That's a pepper, Carolina Reaper,
Yeah,
and that's really hot.
super hot.
Is that right? So I wonder what the Tabasco Scorpion sauce is.
I don't think it's anywhere near it. Like have you seen videos?
No.
I gotta
haven't.
show you one. But,
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, look those up. Somebody eating a Carolina Reaper.
Carolina Reaper.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's a guy that grows it.
Uh-huh.
I'm guessing in Carolina.
It's amazing that they can make stuff that hot.
it's crazy.
It's just amazing. And, you know, when you look at hot sauce, generally speaking, by the way, do you eat a lot of hot sauce? Or are you a spicy type guy? Do you like
A
spicy
little bit,
stuff?
yeah. Nothing crazy.
No, nothing crazy?
Mhm.
I wonder, I'm just curious, is hot sauce or like say Carolina Reaper, is that something you could put in a marijuana or a weed?
Yeah, I mean you could put it in hot sauce, but I heard that hot sauce itself, like hot peppers, have like a good some kind of like chemical reaction, like releasing serotonin in your brain.
Oh
Make
my God! You know, if you eat enough hot sauce, and I'll tell you, with hot sauce, you know what happens with hot sauce? Generally speaking, with hot sauce, you generally put half a bottle of salt in the sauce, and then you actually mix the peppers, but there's a lot of sodium.
Mm-hmm.
And if you look at like a lot of African Americans' household, everybody's got hot sauce. There's even some people, and this is more of an African American culture thing. They'll actually carry hot sauce with them. I've known friends that honestly, what they'll do is they'll have it in their car, in their purse. They'll say, "Oh man, what's that? What do you got in your purse?" Oh, let me get my hot sauce.
Yeah, I could think of somebody off the head.
It's very common. It's really very common. But if you look at like the sodium content, the amount of sodium in hot sauce is really, and it contributes to high blood pressure. I probably eat too much salt, and that's just one of those things. But one thing we used to do, and if you feed it to dogs, like pepper, people would feed pepper to dogs and make them a little more angry. So that might, help to explain maybe some of the serotonin. I wonder, could you put hot sauce in marijuana and smoke it? I wonder.
Hot sauce in there and smoke it?
No, not marijuana, but the peppers. I wonder, could you smoke it? I just wonder. I'm just curious.
I mean, you could do anything.
Sure,
But
sure.
I don't know if you'd want to. I don't know if
Yeah.
you'd want to do that.
I wonder what would the effects would be.
I don't know.
What would be the effects of putting? You're the cook here. What would be the effects of putting? I tell you, peppers in like a brownie or.
Well, I mean, see, something like that, like, I think that'd be fun.
You think it'd be fun?
Fine.
fine. I see.
Yeah, peppers in a brownie, something
Mhm.
like that. But I mean, like smoking a pepper, I don't think that's good.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be good for your lungs.
Yeah. Well, you would. Okay. So when you smoke, and you may not know this, but when you smoke marijuana, and we're back to marijuana, and you have to inhale it, right?
Right.
You have to inhale into your lungs, but you don't do that with a cigar.
No.
Do not do that with a cigar. Okay. So, anyway, we're going back to our show today. This is Mondays with Wallace, and you all know that I'm Wallace, and this is Los Angeles
Flight 420.
Flight 2420 out of LA. We've got Mark Webb with us. Mark had a really unfortunate incident with suicide as a child, and we are thankful that you were able to share that with us. It seems to have really stuck with you because you can obviously.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I'll remember it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, that's in itself, that's unfortunate. I mean, how many days, even today or yesterday, you won't remember much of what happened yesterday. What do you think happened a year ago today in your life?
I have no clue.
You have no clue, yeah. So things like that, they're indelible. And it's unfortunate that you would have a situation like that. What would you say to someone that would be contemplating suicide?
I don't know what I would say to them. 'Cause, I mean, if you tell somebody that's contemplating suicide,
It's contemplating suicide.
like if I'm telling them, don't do it, I don't really understand what they're going through.
Yes, that's true.
I guess I'd just be like, ask them to talk to me.
Yeah. The thing that really points to, Mark, I think, is that you really need professional help. I really feel like the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, and the Suicide Prevention Hotlines, they're always looking for volunteers, and I think they are professionals and they can assess people with veterans. They typically have a very high rate of suicide, and it's probably
Something like 22 a day or something like that.
That's an amazing number, and that's probably an accurate number. I don't know that to be the accurate number, but that in itself is just amazing to hear stuff like that. And with veterans, but I think generally speaking, with a lot of people, I think there are a lot of resources that are available. And I think that if you're willing to reach out for help, my feeling is the help is there. Now, can you affect a person's daily life? If you look at Anthony Bourdain, I would have thought, and I think you'd probably agree, or anyone would agree, that looking at Anthony Bourdain, he had to have the best job. When you can go on set every day and you're sitting with the president. He sat with President Obama in Vietnam and enjoyed a nice meal, and you can make money and you can talk about it and do it again tomorrow. That, to me, is just amazing that he could have that type of life and he could still have a dark place in his life where his only option is suicide. I don't have a way to reconcile that. I don't have a way to say, oh, I understand. I really don't, And I hope he's in a better place today, but it's really disappointing to me to see something like that. Did you know he had a 12-year-old daughter? Did you know that?
No way.
Yeah, he had a 12-year-old daughter. How do you explain that to your 12-year-old daughter? That's just it's shocking to me. It really is shocking to me, and not to condemn anyone like that committed suicide. And I obviously have issue with saying the word someone committed suicide, but how do you explain that to his daughter? How do you you look at, as a child, yourself, and really we're all children. We're all children of God, and we're all someone's child. You feel you feel the burden, and the reason that you are still pained by, or I'm not sure if you don't appear to be pained by it, but obviously it's indelible. But you feel like, what could I have done different, or do I have a hand here? Could I have said something? And that's how I would feel when I've seen someone commit any act that I felt that I could have improved upon. You wonder, what was my fault? If my kids do something, someone goes out and murders people in a shooting, you feel like, what could I have done better? As a parent, as a friend, and with Mr. Bourdain, I feel, what could I have done? Even I think, what could I have done? And there's never much that you could ever do, but you wonder, how would you talk to someone like that? And I think, smoking weed, maybe it makes those things better, but my feeling is I wouldn't recommend someone that was thinking of suicide to smoke. But getting away from smoking could be just as perilous. If you do anything a day, I drink do you drink coffee?
I do.
Do you drink coffee?
Not so much anymore, but I
Not
used
so
to.
much anymore. If you drink coffee daily, and of course I drank coffee today, but if you drink coffee daily and you try to move away from it, there's certain withdrawal.
Right.
And I think the withdrawal from maybe using marijuana might be enough to, create or contribute to depression.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's probably accepted that if you're committing suicide, there's maybe some depression involved.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Do you think there's more depression or hopelessness?
If I had to choose, hopelessness, because I think that you can be depressed but have hope.
Mm-hmm.
You can see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
One thing I kind of think about real quick is, I'm not saying that the two are the same, because there's obviously like medicinal properties to marijuana, but there's a lot of people that have gone the bottle route with depression.
When you say the bottle route, you mean
with depression, right? So like
what's the bottle route? Do you mean drinking, or do you mean pills?
Drinking.
The pills. Yeah.
Drinking alcohol. And I mean, they get like instant relief, right?
Yeah. It's an entire different show, and I won't even talk so much about it, but if you succumb to alcoholism, oh my God, that's a painful, long way to die. Alcoholism, because it has its liver dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think marijuana yet has been proven to cause some of the liver dysfunction we've seen with that's similar to alcoholism. But that's a long show, and maybe it's a show we can look at next, one of our next shows. I'm Wallace Peoples. This is Mondays with Wallace. You are on flight 420 out of Los Angeles. I'm here today with Mark Webb. Mark actually was kind enough to come with us on our show, and we've been talking about marijuana and some of the problems and some of the suicidal ideation related to marijuana. This is Mondays with Wallace. I am Wallace. Thanks for being with us. See y'all next week. Goodbye.